G'day Jeps, today I'm going to try something a little bit different. It's a discussion piece and it was suggested by a good friend of mine, he's called Mark, and he'll be joining me today for our little chat. We talk about Star Citizen and what we hope the game will become, what we think the game will become, and how it will change the face of gaming. This is it's pretty much a free form discussion. I'm mostly asking the questions. And trying to guide the discussion. This is the first time I've ever done this kind of thing, and I really want to hear your feedback. Do you like this kind of discussion video? I've tried to keep it to about 20 minutes. Let me know if you think the length is okay as well, and I hope you enjoy. So this is Mark. He's pretty much my best mate. We met in Taiwan, and we've stayed in touch ever since, even though he's over in the US and I'm in Australia. And we get on really well, as I'm sure you can tell. So anyway, here it is, and enjoy.
Coming back to it and looking at this demo that they just put out for Gamescom, it's just like, oh man, they've now got the first-person side
They've
of
got the
it,
proper mechanics
so that
working now.
It's got proper mechanics. It looks like this looks like a proper first-person shooter. They're doing the aim down sights. It looks like the movement is snappy.
And it's AAA quality, isn't it? And it's AAA quality,
yeah,
but you know in the back of your mind what we're talking about here. We're talking about procedurally generated planets, like enormous, gigantic, a whole universe that you can actually physically kind of move around in.
Yeah,
and it's just unheard of. It's never been like people have dreamed about this.
In a spaceship,
but
in a land speeder,
to actually realize
that you
this
can put inside your spaceship
is insane.
And then on foot, then go and raid rebel outposts on some unknown planet.
Do you think you'll be able to own? What do you think you'll be able to own? Because you know how much I like building like empires in space games. Do you think we'll be able to own like a lot of stuff? Like, will I be able to do a space corporation?
It depends on how they go with it.
So you're not sure, right?
What was it? Not Free Space 2. They were trying to go for that.
I don't know that
believe.
Game.
But that was a while ago. It was I think it was the same guy actually.
Okay.
The Wing Commander dude, and or no, that was Descent. That was the Descent people. But anyways, it was really good, and it was really good in concept as well, because the idea behind that, which is what I think they could do with this, is that you more or less have organic guilds and unions and different organizations build up just around the user base, but the mechanics and the systems in the game are such that are deep enough that that's actually possible. So you could have a group of people that essentially have a pool of resources that they can all pull from, and then they can do whatever it is that they want to create an identity around that thing, and they could control certain sectors of space, and then you could have an emergent, essentially emergent rivalries coming out just over, real world shit.
So you're talking about,
it's like we want those resources over there because we want to bring in more money, so therefore we have to go to war with this faction.
But you're talking about the game supporting real life guilds and things like that, aren't you? That's what you mean.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So is that what you're hoping?
But something where it can be properly represented and also administrated within the game.
Yeah, so you need that sort of structure to be thought through and done properly as well.
As far as their side, I think they have to do it as far as the mechanics. If the mechanics are there, I think it'll build up naturally, because people are just going to want to live in that universe, and if there are different factions, that are vying for different things, they're going to be going back to it just purely for that aspect of it. They're creating their own story.
Can you see people getting around it? Can you see people getting really addicted to Star Citizen, like in a bad way?
In a bad way, yeah, absolutely.
You reckon?
Especially if you add in like the VR and a flight stick and a couple of other things.
Can you imagine that? It would be so immersive.
Seriously, you're going to have some dude who just. Yeah, it would be so immersive that you'll have people who spend 12 hours a day just on Star Citizen. Grinding out whatever resources it is that their faction needs.
So you could have like a virtual life, and people actually having full-time virtual lives in this game. That's just
especially
mind-blowing.
If they go as far as what they're talking about,
technology.
where they're building full-on space stations that take a crew, that aren't flown by one person,
they're going to have like
but
jobs.
actually,
People are going to have
employ
jobs.
an entire crew. Yeah,
in the game.
you're gonna have like something where it's like, hey, we're doing a raid on this other faction in a week and a half. It's like you got to be here to help man the Star Destroyer that we're gonna send in, and there's
Jesus
50 other
Christ.
people who are on that ship, piloting that thing. And if they have it so that if the game reaches that point, people will live in it
And if people have bought
because
into
at
the
that point
game,
it's
like
like it's real life Firefly.
if people have bought into the game as well, as in they're invested in it and they've probably spent loads of money on it and they've spent loads of time already, this is just going to suck them in, isn't it? It's going to pull them in.
All of those things will suck to pull them in further.
Yeah, yeah. It'll snowball, won't it?
So you will. hmm So you will have, the people who are the heads of these factions are going to be people who do it professionally.
And this is like, it feels like I've just entered some sort of science fiction movie. Like this is something that, it's like Lawnmower Man or something. Where someone has sort of looked into the future and gone, right, this is how we imagine it will be. You'll have people with these visors on and then these earphones and then these kind of joysticky things. But they're living in this virtual world that doesn't really exist. And it feels like it's like this dystopian future almost. Like if you lose yourself to that degree, because it's only, we're at this tech now, it's 2016. What about 2030? Can you imagine the tech by then? I mean, within our lifetimes.
Oh God, 2030?
Within our lifetimes, people are going to be losing themselves in this stuff. It might be becoming like a problem.
Oh no, it's already well, not these games, but the games that do have addictive qualities have already got
like World of Warcraft
camps and stuff like that in China. Yeah, I'm thinking in China. Yeah, like World of Warcraft, exactly.
I've never played it. I've always avoided that kind of shit, so I really
cause
don't understand why people get so addicted. I can't imagine it for myself.
there is the people who develop these games, they actually study psychology.
Ugh.
And they try to find the best hooks to addict people. That's why I don't play mobile games.
Right.
Mobile games are based around psychology. They're not actually based around mechanics or anything
or
like
fun,
that.
Even.
It's not about skill or fun or knowledge. No, it's just about hitting that center in your brain that when you hear a ding, you see a bar go up and you hear a ding, you're like, I've done something. And it addicts you with that feeling. That's why what was that game? There's one that showcases it very specifically. Adventure Capitalist. It's a little mobile game. I've just seen it, but the entire game is just nothing but bars going up, tapping buttons to make the bars go up faster or slower, and lots of dinging noises. That's the whole game. It's like it's all you do is just poke stuff and watch bars go up.
That's terrible.
But
what about?
But, it's got millions. It's got millions of players.
In terms of
and it's making millions of dollars.
In terms of, let me ask you this: what do you hope, like for you, what do you hope Star Citizen would be? Like, what would be the ideal? Let's say at launch, though, or within a couple of years. What would be like the ideal game for you? Like, talk me through it.
To be honest, I'd rather see it. I would want it to be a game that is not based on leveling up. As far as as far as like an RPG mechanic, it's like I don't want to be a level 1, level 2, level 3 character. I would rather those things come out through more or less through your equipment.
Yep.
And through what you've
done. So
it's
more realistic. They're not putting these false levels in.
Yeah, so that it's more realistic, and also that removes an enormous barrier to entry. Because if it's one of those things where it's like an RPG, well, suddenly you've got to put in 80 hours before you can even get in on the most basic stuff that everybody's playing.
Yeah.
But if it's something where
that would just be stupid. I think that would just be dumb. That would be a dumb move.
That'd just be stupid. Yeah. That would be stupid because that inevitably, by definition, that ends.
So they're not going to. Let's assume they're not going to do that because I don't think they're stupid people. I think they're pretty. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if it's like that, I mean, how do you see? What would you do in the game? Like, how do you want to play it? How would you want to play it?
I would come in and play it as a space trucker. So I would come in and be a hull between points, and I would be a sellsword as well. Because it's like I'm not going to, just because of the nature of my lifestyle right now, I'm not going to have the time to invest in it
of course.
to be a full
weight
carrying member of a faction.
Yep.
So it's like I don't really want to be affiliated with a faction, but it's like I could have sympathy towards certain factions
Mm.
where it's like, hey, we're doing this huge battle and we need some backup. We'll give you 10,000 creds, to come fight in this battle with us. We know your ship's pretty
So
good and you're pretty
you're a
good,
privateer,
that kind of a
basically.
thing. It's like, be like, all right, yeah, I'll do that. When's that
You're a
happening?
privateer. You're kind of just making your way in the universe
Yeah,
any way you can, trading sometimes, and like the Han Solo kind of
yeah,
thing.
trading sometimes, fighting sometimes. Yeah, but very much a Han Solo, what's the guy's name? Mal from Firefly. Very much that kind of a character.
Yeah, which is cool. I mean,
It's like I'm just out there making my own way,
and you're having
because it's
adventures,
this massive universe and it's just cool to explore. Yeah, and it's cool to have adventures. You hook up with
and
people and
that's why
it's
they're
like,
like
hey,
always the stars
there's
of the
this cave
movies
over
too,
here. Let's go.
right? Because they're the guys who just
Yeah,
get into shit, and it's cool.
yeah.
It's exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you're not doing it for any particular reason. You're just doing it because, hey, I got some time right now. The pay's pretty good, and that seems exciting. Let's do it.
Yeah. What about goals, though? What would your goal be? Would you have a goal?
Goals is a tough one in that one
Yeah.
because, yeah, I mean, there's either you have this kind of emergent scene where you have the various factions and things building up,
Hmm.
and then goals will naturally form around that as people begin to fight over land and resources,
Do you know?
territory and resources.
I'd love,
But
I'd love to be able to start a corporation, like a, like a,
yeah,
like
and I would
start
like to
some kind of
see. I would
little
really like.
business or
Mhm,
organization, this little racket almost,
mhm,
and get a couple of other people
yeah.
involved, people I knew in real life, and
Mhm,
start running rackets or something, or just making money somehow.
yeah. And that's kind of what I was talking about with the space trucker thing as well. It's like you hook up with somebody else who's doing the same thing, and you're like, hey, I'm making a lot of money doing this. You want to come with me on a few runs?
And that's how it starts,
That
right?
kind of a thing. That'd be, yeah, and that would be how it starts. And then from there, you begin to kind of have an occasional ragtag group
Mm.
of of various people with various skills who their skills are going to differ wildly because they're not really affiliated with anything. They're just doing their thing,
Mm. But
which would be cool.
yeah,
And yeah, being able to build up a corporation would be cool. So if there's some way to officially, register those
incorporate.
kinds of things and actually have them exist, have them
Oh
exist in
God,
the
I
world,
would start
that'd
buying
be
into it at that
fantastic.
point.
That's
That's when it would start getting dangerous
that's
for
the
me
thing that I think needs to happen with it.
because I would
So
start
all
getting
these factions and
too
stuff, it's like,
involved, like interested.
yeah, 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 for
I'd be
sure.
enjoying it almost
But I
too
think that
much.
that's what they need to. I really think that's what they need to do with it, though, to make it more relevant. Because it's like having that
I
stuff
think
built
you're
up in the
right,
real world is
actually.
great, but having it exist in that universe,
If
would just be. I
because
mean,
they need to bear one thing in mind, don't they? This one core thing is that they're
mhm,
building this fantasy world. So people are going to want to play out
yeah,
their space-based fantasies, whatever that is, to be the swashbuckling
yeah,
hero, or to be the big corporate guy, or to run with the empire, or whatever it is. If they can support
yeah,
that, people are just going to go fucking nuts on it.
absolutely.
Yeah, they're just going to let
Yeah,
their
because it allows you
imaginations
to,
run
it
wild.
allows you to live a life that's not possible in our lifetime.
Exactly, and that's what everybody wants. They want to let their imagination run wild and be able to act it out somehow. And if they can record
Yeah.
that and share it with their friends or on YouTube as well, people are just going to go nuts. I reckon genuinely
Well,
this
it's
could
gonna
be the
be.
biggest game ever, by far.
Yeah, it would be full on entertainment at that point because
Mm.
the people don't have to create a story. The story is very much emergent. The story comes from
Whatever
just
people
the
are doing at the
context of
time.
what's going on and what's happening. Yeah,
Yeah.
and whatever's happening. And with all of that context, you automatically have a story.
Yep.
So people are going to be watching it just to find out what's this faction doing, what's that corporation doing, what's that place doing.
And that's when you get the Frankie on PC for Star Citizen, the guy that everybody follows to watch his stories because he's playing it so freaking much and he's so good
Yeah,
that everybody else wants to just watch because it's cool. And then you've got your
yeah,
own
and that's
subculture
what I mean.
around it,
That
and then
and
it's a thing
mhm,
that's never going to disappear after that. It's become almost part of the gaming
yep.
permaculture.
Yeah, and even then, it's like even if 10 years from now the game is still going and Frankie has long since quit, whatever factions he created, whatever wars that he did and all of that will continue to exist as lore in the
Exactly.
community.
Yeah. And people perpetuate
And
that.
all of that stuff will build up. Yeah. And so gamers, the gamers themselves who've existed within this universe will actually be a real presence within the lore of this thing. It's not something that anybody had to create. It's something that just was created just by events happening
And what
within
about
the game, and that kind of
how do you think? I mean, with all this going on, this is gaming stuff. What about the mainstream? Do you think people are going to start? Obviously, there's going to be people taking notice, but is it going to be taking notice in the way of, oh, this is like a weird thing that only gamers understand? Someone just spent, $10,000 on a spaceship. That kind of weird news, or are they, or do you think they kind of start opening up to it a little bit?
Well, that'll always be the case to an extent because that exists with any kind of boutique service. So I mean, you look at somebody who is a big film buff, right?
Yep.
They'll spend $1 billion to get James Dean's car because it was in some movie that they really liked, back when they were growing up. That doesn't make sense to the vast majority of people. The vast majority of people are going to think that's really stupid, but anybody who's really involved with that particular thing will get it.
Yeah.
But that also doesn't preclude anybody from watching that James Dean movie, So even though the fringes of this thing could get insane, as long as you have that core aspect there, which is why I was talking about not having leveling up, that you can just jump in and start privateering, then you've removed that barrier of entry. If you have a big enough universe and you have the ability to just jump in and privateer, then you have something that anybody can jump into at any point.
So do you think Star Citizen is going to get more mainstream people gaming? Can you imagine that?
I think it will get...
Do you think it would be too hard to get into?
I think it will get alternative. I don't think it'll be too hard to get into. I think there's going to be a large subsection of people who were maybe not gamers before who will get into it.
Because of Star Citizen?
People who are into sci-fi... Yeah, because people who are into sci-fi, who are into, astronomy, all of that kind of stuff. I mean, I bet you'll have a lot of professors and things, playing this game.
The Scott Manleys, like Scott Manley.
Full-on space fantasies.
Yep.
Yeah. You can play on your full.
And you're talking about space fantasies, super intelligent adult men playing this because it is so engaging. That's the level that gaming has got to, and that's what blows my mind. Like the technology to support that. I could never have imagined this as a kid. It's insane, and this is so adult and mature, like as a thing to exist. Yeah, this isn't just kids playing games.
No, not at all. And I think that the company itself is doing themselves a service by not trying to make this thing so mainstream.
And not because they're not going console. This is PC first, and they've said that from the beginning. And that's one of the reasons so many people have followed it closely.
And the PC crowd is a more sophisticated crowd.
Much more intelligent
crowd in general. I mean,
generally wealthier, better educated, and older. Yeah. And more enthusiastic. And so, enthusiasts who build stuff themselves too, right?
Yeah. But the good thing about these people is that these people are your mavens. So if you have a large group of these super dedicated people attached to this thing, you're going to have an enormous
never go away.
Subgroup underneath them that will keep pulling people. They'll just keep pulling people in.
It's like a funnel.
People will
the
come
Frankies,
in and fall
the Frankie
off,
on
but
PCs.
It's like these mavens are going to be out there proselytizing, all the time.
And that's what Frankie
years.
was for DayZ. I mean, so many people play DayZ because of him. And there will be 100 other YouTubers and Twitchers like that who just gain these massive followings, as well as the people playing the games themselves. Because, I mean, broadcasting your game is so much part of gaming now. I mean, it's you can't imagine one without the other anymore.
Yeah.
If you're playing, you're almost broadcasting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and having a game like this that is, they're not building it for that, but it's going to lend itself so well to that.
Yep. I mean, I'm going to be playing.
It's going to be a sensation for both players and for watchers. There's going to be a lot of people who follow this community and watch it who never play the game, who never really even bother to play it. They're just going to watch it because the emergent stories that come out of it are going to be so fascinating that they're going to be like, "Oh, what's that?"
And this is going to be me on this channel.
It's going to be like when Prince of Macedon puts up his first video of of Rome versus Carthage. It's like, oh, nobody's ever seen that before. But he's done it really well in this game, and suddenly this thing has 4 million views. Even though, there's not 4 million people playing that game.
Yeah. And that's when it gets huge. when it gets huge, like DayZ.
That's when it starts showing up on all your talk shows and all that stuff, and your personalities begin to show up on talk shows.
It's DayZ. That's exactly like DayZ. I mean, that came from nowhere, just appeared.
Yeah.